Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blanks and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. As Drew hanging out with you here today. I got some fun news as far as things going up, keeping you updated, as well as a bit of a review here that we're going to be taking a look at. The first thing, and this is a cheap ploy, a way to get me to sort of get to talk about sports a little bit. I will tell you in the first bit of news that one thing you should not expect to watch on TV coming up here in the fall is at least a month of seeing New England Patriots quarterback Tom Brady suiting up for his team, as the appeal to the federal court regarding his penalty was denied. Now, a lot of people are hoping that this is the end of the whole Deflategate issue, that he'll just set out. I mean, he's done everything he could. Now, in a lot of this situation where it comes to that he was going to go all or none, not sit there and take any lesser penalty because that would be an admittance of guilt. Hey, he's gone for it. You know, I appreciate it. I appreciate him trying to take it to task, trying to go as far as he could. Now the court's saying no. He's going to sit the 4 games, which the Patriots were kind of expecting, so we'll see how Garoppolo does. But you won't be seeing him playing for a while. So Tom Brady comes back in October. So after the bye week, coincidentally enough. So that won't be happening. Another bit of fun TV news. I don't know if you guys have watched the clip of Samuel L. Jackson explains or sums up what's happened in Game of Thrones so far. If you haven't watched it, go ahead and go treat yourself. Get on the YouTubes. And Sam Jackson talking to you about Game of Thrones. I mean, they started season 1. I mean, they go through a lot. He goes through quite a bit. I think it's like an 8-minute video. So that's pretty funny if you want to have some fun here as well. And along with, as far as like news goes or things that are coming up, just recently it was reported that that adaptation is not beyond the film industry or the toy industry that gets adapted into TV. It can happen in video games as well. And the most recent property that looks like it's getting primed for a TV development is that of Battlefield. Now, it's very interesting as far as it goes because, it's an EA game. It's been around for quite a long time, and it has gone over several periods of time, and depicting different types of conflict, historical and future. So to say Battlefield is going to get a TV treatment, we're not entirely sure as to which Battlefield is going to be. Now, the producers that came on and those that are associated with the game, they have said that this could be a game changer, which it's interesting how they could say that because it still doesn't give any illusion as to what period of time the series is going to focus on. They've made ones as old as World War I, a World War II story. I think there was a Vietnam. There was a Iraq-Afghanistan war. They've done future combat where we're back fighting against Russia. They have one that's, I think it's a Battlefield Hardline, which is like a cops and criminals type thing, which some of the articles reporting on this say that would be the one that makes the most sense because it could be a procedural, but at that point it doesn't really separate itself from anything. If it's going to be a police procedural, then why carry the Battlefield name? I think they want to do something that's going to be of a bigger scope. Now, to me, I think it would be cool is to do a World War I or World War II episodic, type show. Especially World War I, because not a lot gets made about that. But to make it like a future war, I mean, there's a lot of shows and movies out there that are wanting to talk about the future of warfare and try to kind of do these sort of alternate timelines and, make for something that they don't have to go on any historical context to, that they could just sort of wing it. And they might go that route, kind of foreseeing it going that route. But in my opinion, I think doing something like a World War I centered show would be cool. Also because there's a lot of people that enjoy those period type television shows. So it's they haven't really said, because they don't really have the Battlefield games are necessarily story driven. It's really, you're just kind of thrown into this world. You're supposed to assume the rules and a bit of the history and the story about the world, and then you get like missions and stuff, but there's not a through line. So this will have to be, something that there's going to be main characters. So they may call it Battlefield, but I think there's going to be a very different look as far as to how this is going to be, just carrying the name. They may have some little, references to the game there and whatnot, but I just don't know how they're going to bring, because they're mostly just bringing the brand recognition. That's basically what they want to do, but make a show that's either a military or cop show. So the cast is going to be, they're going to have names. They're going to have faces. It's not going to be like a first-person type thing, but it's also going to have a storyline. And I just think something like World War I's pretty broad, and you can see a lot of the depictions and stuff from the game that way. And I don't know, that probably won't happen. So they'll probably just do something that's going to be futuristic, and people can have fun and kind of sit back and enjoy the possibility, of doing that. But Battlefield getting adapted. And it's funny because the article is talking about a lot of video games and stuff that when they get adapted don't really live up to expectation. They mentioned a Warcraft, which I kind of knew it was going to be abysmal. But with something like Battlefield, for as many games as there are, the ability to adapt, it's fairly open because there's not established story. There's not established characters other than the ones that that are soldiers. Those can be filled out with more personality and more characterization and history that is already existing of a world rather than Warcraft. That's going to be a little bit more grounded. It's going to be a little bit more open as far as actually developing stories within episodes and within seasons in order to do. So we'll see if it's just called Battlefield. We'll see if it gets some type of subtitle. Not a lot about where they're going to go with it has been released so far. It's really just in these announcement phases and early development. But they got some pretty heavy hitters going on. Michael Sugar, who's involved with The Nick, which is a show with Cillian Murphy. He's involved in Spotlight as well. And Ashley Zoltiv signed on to be the executive producers, so they're looking to get this going. We'll see as far as who's going to pick it up too. It'd be really cool if it was something like a Hulu or a Netflix, depending on where they make it. Could end up being on Acorn. So we're going to see what it's looking like. So it's a Paramount essentially property. So we'll see. Also, it could be related to coming on CBS, but I don't think you get a lot of levity as far as the ability of action that you can go towards that as opposed to doing it on like a premium network or a network, but a premium provider like Netflix. Sorry. We're going to see. It's interesting that there's going to be a new Battlefield 1, and it's a World War I that the Harlem Hellfighters, that is African American and Puerto Rican soldiers and stuff, that's going to be coming out. They may do that just roll with the adaptation from a game that's going to be coming out at the time, or whether they're going to go back into the annals of the game history and find something that they can make the property. So because of that length of time to where it goes from, the beginning of one century through another, there's a whole bunch of different time periods that they could work with. So that's going to be coming down the pipe. So it should be pretty interesting. There's no release date or anything else on that. Like I said, it's in its early stages, but you got an adaptation of Battlefield that's going to be coming out. I think some people might be more excited if they would have done something like Call of Duty, but Battlefield, in the face of all that, they got to find another way to stay relevant. And Paramount taking this video game franchise onto the small screen, probably going to be better suited than just trying to make a movie out of it. So that can be coming. That's coming down the pipe. All right, we got lots more to talk about here on the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, everybody, we are back here on the GSMC Television Podcast. There's been a lot of updates here recently regarding the CW's line of the DC shows. So we're talking Arrow, Flash, now Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. And they're gearing up a lot for especially this next season of Flash. There's going to be the Flashpoint thing we talked about. But now Supergirl has moved from being on the network channel over to CW, which is really where it should have been to begin with. They're going to relaunch season 1 and then continue on with it. There's a lot of rumor going around with that. I know we just talked about on a previous show, Kevin Smith's going to come back and direct an episode of The Flash. He wants to not only write and direct an episode of Arrow, but he apparently also wants to get into Supergirl as well and do the Flash cameo in that show. So Kevin Smith's wanting to play in that entire sandbox over there. But if you haven't seen, if you haven't been catching up on a lot of these websites here, the image for Kid Flash, Wally West, who's appeared here in the last season, he does get the Speed Force. He becomes Kid Flash. It's very representative of what the original Kid Flash costume looks like. You can go ahead and check that out. You can go to Screen Rant, Superhero Hype, comicbookmovie.com, all those other ones that'll have it. You can see the costume promoting the Wally West for season 3. And there's more so as they're building up the next season of The Flash. Getting a world around Supergirl is going to be the next big move that they're making. So it was on CBS, as previously said. Now it moved to CW, really where it should have been. And now they're in a bit of a casting frenzy, getting the next season ready. And one of the big announcements that they'd made, which was kind of a big deal to fans, is they've casted Maggie Sawyer. Floriana Lima is the name of the actress that's going to be playing her. That they have the big thing about Maggie Sawyer is she's one of DC Comics' first openly gay characters, and she's a police detective. So now we're going to see not just the people that work for the magazine that, the Supergirl that Kara gets involved in, but now there's going to be a police presence. And there's a lot about the show is really not angled towards the LGBT community, but are trying to get that sort of that openness to it, that the property really allows for it. And they're bringing in Maggie Sawyer. She's a really, really out and proud type character. Bringing her into She's a cop, but she works in sort of like the CSI type division of it, of the police department. So she's going to be filling that, and that's probably also where we can see that correlation of where the Flash might come in, because Barry Allen works for he's a crime scene investigator, works in the lab, might end up working with her as well. So there could be that cross connection between those shows, not just through Supergirl itself, but also through Maggie Sawyer. So she was a character that came from Metropolis and then moving to wherever the city or whatever that they're going to put Kara in. So it kind of runs through those different things. So they're building up. They got somebody who's going to be playing Superman in this one. Tyler Hoechlin, he was from Road to Perdition and Teen Wolf from MTV. And I'm not sure how much of a presence Clark Kent's going to have in Supergirl. I don't know. They might just dab, little parts of it. I don't think he's just going to come back and now the show all of a sudden has Superman. It's obviously not the angle they want to go to, and just have him take over the show. But they're going to be putting a lot of folks in there, and then of course with that they're going to be looking to do a lot of crossovers with not just the Flash, but the Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow as well. And even in the midst of all this, so we have Supergirl getting developed, we have a lot of buzz and everything around the Flash. As season 3 gets ramped up, like I said, that one's going to be, and it's primed to be one of the coolest seasons of TV you're going to watch of anything. And that's also including, something like Game of Thrones. So set picks and stuff that's going along about a lot of these. Maybe the Flashpoint, like I mentioned, is maybe it's just one episode, maybe it's 2 or whatever. But I mean, they're building up so many characters that have the Speed Force. Now the introduction of Wally West that's going to have it. They're looking at the Black Racer. It looks like that's going to be one of the guys that you're going to see in the show. Again, you can go see these set picks and stuff. They're really building a lot of these speedsters into it, and it's weird because whenever you see the set photos and stuff like this, the costumes always look ridiculous. They look way better on film, but when you just see them like walking around on set, they all look terrible. And and some of the Flash costumes are pretty cool, so we'll see how they're going to look, obviously more active at nighttime. But that's what we're going to see on a lot of this. So they're building up a lot of the speedsters, where we'll see how far it goes in the Flashpoint, but they're not going to try to have a crossover and cross-pollinate with the other shows too much. As the next season of Arrow gets underway, it looks like what they're wanting to do, at least what Stephen Amell's referred to, is they're going to try to get back more towards the street level type crime and the street level villains, as that the Arrow gang are starting to regroup and rebuild. And obviously there's still going to be some cameo episodes of the other heroes, but I think they're going to try to keep it, because now that Supergirl is going to be in there and Supergirl is going to have to face superpowered villains, and because the Flash is facing superpowered villains, it's good to have that kind of medium. And really which Arrow was brought in and sort of founded on was facing these not meta-humans, but people that are just higher level human beings, like assassins and and the mob and stuff like that. So I think in order to balance out the palette that Legends of Tomorrow and Flash and Supergirl are just going to innately have, that they're trying to bring that down, bring the tone back to being a little bit darker and a little bit more street level. So you basically won't have the same type of viewing experience when you watch all these shows. If it's all going to kind of look the same and have the same type of villains, the same type of fights, then you get kind of bored. So Arrow's going to balance that out and give you that, okay, I just got hit with all of the superpowered stuff. Now I just want to watch a guy beating the snot out of somebody, that he's highly trained and highly skilled. And that's really where they're going to go to. And it looks like they continue to build upon. They've recently posted a pic. Amel looks like he's put on about 10 pounds of muscle there, that they're going to continue to do these flashbacks, which are hopefully going to may integrate into the other shows like Legends of Tomorrow, but they're going to continue to go back. Now he's not on the island anymore like he was in the first season or two. Now it's another sort of process showing him in his journey before he comes back to Star City. So they're going to continue to do that. They're going to continue to do those flashbacks, as I said, and now I'm hoping they bring back characters like, if they're going to do that, make it more street level, they bring back Deathstroke and make him super competitive. There's a lot of Batman rogues that they bring into Green Arrow, and they may end up exploring more of those. So we have that. As I said, Kevin Smith is wanting to do Onomatopoeia. That would be interesting to see. We'll see if he gets a gig, possibly directing an episode here. Maybe not this season, but next season. And Supergirl's on our way, and that show is just ramping up, and Flash looks like it's just going to continue with the excitement they brought you in this last season and just carry it right on through, delving in really deep and really early into the show's inception. We're only going on like season 3, and it's already going to get that heavy. So that's pretty cool. They got a lot of that stuff coming up. Very exciting stuff coming up in the CW concerning those DC properties. All right, you're listening to the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. We'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, everybody, we are back. And outside of talking here about some news of things that are upcoming, I want to talk to you about a show that I'm currently watching on Netflix. It was originally it's a BBC show on BBC America is where it was originally aired. It's called The Last Kingdom, and it's on first view, with all the things out there like Vikings or The Bastard Executioner that are out there concerning this period of time, about Vikings, about the original the Angles or the Saxons that are out there. This one comes in. This is based off of the book. So Bernard Cornwell, it's called The Saxon Stories. The Last Kingdom is the first of the book. So a bit like, almost like Game of Thrones, where the protagonist in it is a fictional character, but some of the people that he interacts with and stuff, that they are real people from the past. So it does a mix of that historical fiction or working fiction in the middle of works of things that really happened. So, it takes place between 8 and 900 AD. England is not really the English Empire as it was. It's kind of broken up into all these other kingdoms. And invading Vikings are still there. They're referred to as Danes in this. They don't call themselves Vikings. Like the terminology is not used. They're just Danes. And the main character, Uhtred, he's an heir of a very small, little kingdom, and they're attacked by the Danes. His father, played by Matt McFadden, they got him just for an episode. He's killed, and he runs out there to try to join the fray, and the Danes end up taking him. And there's a point where the Danes are trying to give him back after they realize, who he is. Try to give him back to the Saxons, but he's warned that if he goes back to the Saxons, then he's going to get killed because the kid's uncle is trying to take over the power there. So that ends up getting the kibosh on the whole exchange, and then Uhtred is raised by the Danes. And then you cut to later in the first episode where he's grown up. And now he's trying to get his lands back because his old uncle that was seeking the power, he's teamed up with this disgraced Dane from when Uhtred was a boy, and they're working together. And they go through and they kill Uhtred's new Dane family, and so that's really where it starts off. So he has nowhere else to go. His village is burned, so now he's like, all right, now I'm going to come back to this place and I'm going to take what's rightfully mine. That is becoming a bit hairy, so he ends up south, going to Wessex, which is called the Last Kingdom. And there's a little bit of upheaval there, too, as far as who the leadership is and who it is they're fighting. And so because he is a Saxon but was raised a Dane, he's got knowledge of how the Danes work, how they operate, and how they fight. And so he's vested with a charge by Albert, who takes over as king, to stay with him for a year and teach him the ways of the Danes and how they fight, so they might defeat them. And in exchange, although it's not specific, he says that he would help him get his lands back and everything. And really, as he goes through this process, he's making friends with some of the Saxons and sort of having some of his Dane friends feel betrayed because he's trying to get this land back and hold a title like a Saxon would. And then on the other hand, he's constantly out of grace and out of favor with the Saxons because he still holds on to his pagan beliefs and the pagan customs that he's been raised with, and not one to become Christian. There's a constant. It's not just the where you're from push and pull that goes on in this show. It has a lot to do. There's a lot of talk about religious culture that has him not necessarily fighting with it in his mind, but eventually trying to use that as a manipulation. There's a lot that goes on to it. And since it was made originally by BBC and not something like the History Channel like you see with Vikings, there's the violence in this is a little bit more graphic than stuff you're going to see that's made for TV in America. Now, the second season is going to get underway. There's only been one season of the show so far. But like Vikings, it's starring a very fair-complexioned, fair facade or visage of an actor as your main guy, is Uhtred. So they got eye candy as the main role, but he's a pretty good. I mean, he's a good actor. There's a good performance in it. They're going to start shooting the second season, and now Netflix has jumped on as a co-producer. So not sure if it's going to air on BBC America in that form, or whether they're just going to record all the show and really just do a Netflix style and just put it all out at one time. So Netflix is coming out, or they might just try to do it as, hey, we're going to put some money into this to keep it going, and then we can do that as a premiere. But it allows them, Netflix as a co-producer, to, once it airs, if they do bring it into Netflix, it's something that they can hold on to as opposed to it going somewhere like Hulu or Amazon Prime. So it's a pretty smart move by Netflix to get into that, because along with that production, they can also affect his distribution. So if you do want to go see, if you want to watch The Last Kingdom, you can either watch it when it airs if they do that, but otherwise that baby's going straight to Netflix. And it'll only be on Netflix. So we'll see where that goes. But you can watch on Netflix now. It's a really good show. I'm having a fun time. I'm having a good time watching it. I'm in and out, of course, with the baby all the time. Like, I'm going to figure out what's going on. But it's something you can catch up with, and it's sexy and violent, as all good shows should be. and it's that really cool, part in that period in time where there's, something's about to come because Albert's wanting to make this one unified England, and how that all is going to ultimately develop to where the Angles, the English, become, the overall ruler of the territory. So The Last Kingdom, like I said, there's only been one season so far. Peep that out. It's on Netflix right now. The first, looks like 11 episodes is what they've done, are there to view. It's a fun show. Like I said, it is quite violent, as a lot of the period was. And there's a lot of religious stuff. I mean, if you have no problem with dealing with that kind of talk, it's whatever. But it's fun. It's familiar in a way, but different enough to where you can watch Vikings and not feel put out by watching The Last Kingdom. They're different enough. So definitely check that out. Like I said, it's on Netflix, The Last Kingdom. They're going to get season 2 going underway. All right. Well, this was fun talking with you guys here. I talked a little bit of superheroes, talked a little bit of history, talked a little bit of Sam Jackson, and even got a little bit of football there in the process. So that was pretty fun. I want to thank you all for listening today. You can check out our next show that's going to be coming out on Monday. We're going to talk a little bit more about not necessarily the CW shows, but there is a little bit of news on the X-Men front that I want to talk to you about that as well. So that should be pretty fun. You can check us out on gsmcpodcast.com or iTunes, or really anywhere you can get a podcast subscription, where you can also check out our other programming as well. You can follow us on Facebook and or Twitter, whichever you prefer. I have been Drew. You have been wonderful, and this concludes your broadcast day.